Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. Right, okay. Welcome. Let me just get these links out so we can get a few people to join, and then we'll dive straight into it. Give me 2 seconds. Here we go. Okay, those that are just joining us, welcome back. Hope everyone had a lovely weekend. We have officially started a new quarter, a new week, a new month. So let's see what we can get. Obviously, we're taking a short here on gold. It's just tweeting around that 200 moving average on the 15 minute. It's just setting up some structure. So let's see how things kind of develop. But yeah, it's going to be a relatively quiet Monday. Things are just going to start to pick up structure again. So we'll see. Let me just go through the economic calendar, just so we've got a little bit of guidance in terms of structure for this week. Okay. Again, there's going to be relatively low volume anyway because the US is on holiday. So kind of that to be expected. So today, 3 o'clock, we get ISMs. And then tomorrow, obviously, is July 4th. The US is completely offline. So I'm not expecting anything major to happen. Got some EU PMIs, PPIs, durable goods orders, an FOMC minutes meeting, ADP, non-farm, okay, jobless claims, PMI. Okay, so obviously it's Labour Week. Things will pick up after Tuesday, really. So Wednesday onwards, once the US does come back online. Obviously, your big day is your non-farm payrolls on Friday. Your unemployment, your average hourly earnings. So yeah, things will pick up towards the end of the week, but they'll probably hold off until some of that stronger data comes out. Yeah. So we'll see how things kind of play out. I'm not expecting crazy movement. All the movement really was, last week we saw some decent moves. So yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit more of a chilled out week this week. But we'll see what we can get in on. Anyway. Now, oil, massive rebound, pushing towards that target at 72 that we had last week. It's not really giving us any real ideal entry. Probably is looking like we're going to pull back a bit here, if anything, towards that demand zone further down, just around here. And get rid of all of this previous TA. But yeah, you got your stronger supply between 72 and 72.5 roughly. Just get this boy in a little bit. There we go. Bitcoin. Altcoin market absolutely flying. Bitcoin's still moving within that range now. It's more than likely to continue to do so until we start getting some of that data coming out. Again, US is on holiday, so I don't expect anything crazy. Although the altcoin market is finding a lot of strength. Bitcoin dominance is pulling back a little bit. Bitcoin's still ranging, so yeah, the altcoin space is a little bit more bullish. We're keeping our eye on Litecoin just because the Litecoin halving is next month. And it's, I mean, look at this, it's absolutely blowing through. A target between 130, 135, so still plenty of room to go. But yeah, huge amounts of buy side coming into it. So we'll see what we can get. But again, not expecting anything crazy until some of the data's coming out and the market has a little bit more clearance. But yeah, lots of movement, lots and lots and lots of movement. Big amount of demand underneath. So keep your eye on it. Vet as well is looking pretty good, or VeChain. Um, Big moves. So we shall see how things kind of play out. But yeah, that's crypto for you. Dollar index up on the day. Yeah. Just not expecting anything massive to play out. Things are just set in structure. So in terms of the gold trade, okay. Now we're targeting the same target as we had last week, but there's levels in which we do need to break. So we shall see how bearish it continues to look. It was a pretty strong continuation back up. Last week, obviously, we got that data coming out. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was the overall income went up. Let's have a look at some of the FX.
Jim, you're such a student of history. Is the Fed finding it unacceptable because they're wedded to a return to the great moderation? Or as Bill Dudley said last week in his Bloomberg Opinion essay, this is a society, a country, a nation, and the Fed that has to get used to a permanent higher rate regime.
I don't think the Fed's quite with Dudley that they need to accept a higher permanent regime. I think they look at the 2%, and I think it comes back to May of last year when Chair Powell was in the White House, in the Oval Office, and President Biden pointed at him and said, America, this is the guy that's going to bring inflation down. And he's taken that very seriously. He has stated over and over again that their goal is 2%. He has said that without getting inflation down, the economy. So he's dead serious about trying to bring it down, and he should, because prices for the last 2 years have largely been running faster than raises. And so on a real basis, especially people who live paycheck to paycheck, they've been falling behind, and that has to be rectified.
And as such, we've seen expectations for the terminal rate higher the past week or so after hearing from Powell that commitment to keep fighting inflation. But let's talk about the neutral rate. Has your calculus for where the neutral rate could be changed at all?
No, it hasn't changed, except that I'll go with what the Fed says. The neutral rate is somewhere around 0.5% above the long-run average of inflation. Now, of course, we could argue to the cows come home, what is the long-run rate of inflation? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 3.5? I'm more in the 3 to 3.5 range, which means that neutral is 4. And then Chair Powell put a little nuance on it. He said the entire yield curve has to be above the neutral rate, not just the funds rate. So some of the rates, like the 10-year note at around 385, are not quite there, and so that would suggest higher rates. So I am with Bill Dudley on that. That rates are probably going to continue to drift higher.
It feels like a Fed Decide show. We got Jim Bianco and Ellen Zentner with us. Ellen, I want you to ask a question to Mr. Bianco. Try to be nice. But Ellen, I want to get an observation from you first. Is this a Fed that has to make, as John Taylor of Stanford would say, this is a Fed that has to make a regime shift away from the silliness of 1.x run rate on the Fed funds rate?
Well, I think this is something that is going to underscore how much they have to go back to the table, as they said, every 5 years, and taking a look at their entire framework of how they conduct monetary policy, and things like, are we at a longer run, higher
Are you
neutral
with
rate?
Florida on this?
Are we
And
going
nobody
to?
one chart and others?
I think that these things are evolution, not revolution, when they make changes. I don't think that they're going to change the inflation target, but I think they can fudge around it like some of the central banks and have a band
It's
of
close.
uncertainty around that. But Jim, I want to ask you, when you think about how long the expansion will last, we're going to have a downturn at some point, and probably inflation will still be higher than goal at that point. Does that mean that the Fed is going to be less reluctant to do a steeper cutting cycle in order to offset slower growth?
Sure, and let's look back a year ago. A year ago, Q1, Q2, we had two consecutive negative quarters of GDP. And you remember a year ago, the big debate was, is that a recession? And most people said no. And what did the Fed do during that? They hiked, by 50 and then by 75. They were not deterred by a slowdown in GDP. So if we see the consensus forecast that at the end of the year we might see negative GDP numbers, if inflation stays elevated, I don't think that defers or dissuades them from raising rates. What would is if we saw a big slowdown in the labor market, but as we all know, the payroll report has beaten 14 consecutive months. So we haven't even gotten a miss on the payroll report, let alone a slowdown on it. But if we did, that might be the game changer.
But how do you feel about, the credit impacts that we've had? I mean, are we too complacent here that we've had this big credit shock? There's sort of the economy pre-March 8, then post-March 8. And it feels like there's one camp that says, well, we've just escaped that. It's just not going to have a big impact on credit and the labor markets. And then another camp that says, well, we've just not seen it yet. Where do you
I agree with you that, March 8th was probably the most important economic date of the year, pre the bank failures, post the bank failures. And I do agree that we've seen a big credit shock, and we're going to continue to see that. Now, the credit shock's not going to probably result in another bank failure, but it is going to result in a pullback, especially for small and medium businesses. And I think that as we go forward, the Fed will look at that, but then Chair Powell's already kind of hinted that that's more of a regulatory measure. Michael Barr, the head of supervision at the Fed, it's his job to deal with that. Our job is to deal with inflation. So I don't think at the end of the day that the credit situation is going to dissuade the Fed other than push them from a regulatory standpoint, but not necessarily from a monetary policy standpoint.
Jim Bianco, thank you. Jim Bianco with us today from Chicago. Really interesting idea, folks. I think some people share this, but maybe it's not articulated, of disinflation, inflation down, and then he's calling for a tick up there. That's an outlier call right now, but it's tangible.
Yeah, really interesting to hear. I haven't heard much about, inflation is bottoming, and it sort of makes sense when you think about the Fed cycle that's expected, this stop and go sort of cycle. Sort of makes sense that you would also see inflation follow that path.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to see the data today. We will have ISM for you later this morning. That first look, I've never looked at it, but Pharaoh, he's like up at 2 a.m. getting ready for it.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. We're going to continue. Ellen Zentner of Morgan Stanley is with us. We'll have ample time with her in the back half of the next hour. Coming up, if you're in the equity markets, if you're confused, Anna Hahn, equity strategist at Wells Fargo. We're going to do that next. What a list today.
It's great.
I'm tearing up.
Access. Hello and welcome to The Risk Opportunity, a series brought to you by Bloomberg Media Studios and Zurich Insurance Group. Countries around the world are committed to the Paris Agreement, which aims to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius or less. But our survival doesn't just depend on reducing emissions. In this episode, we'll hear from experts like Dr. David Lallement, who's worked to develop models to better understand and reduce disaster risk. You can listen to and follow The Risk Opportunity wherever you get your podcasts now.
Vast selection of global fixed income securities at Interactive Brokers Bond Marketplace. Search their deep availability of over 1 million bonds globally. IBKR has no markups or built-in spreads and low, fully transparent commissions on bonds. IBKR displays the highest bids and lowest offers received from the electronic venues they access. In addition, clients can interact with each other by placing bids and offers online to execute their trades. Learn more at ibkr.com/bonds.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. He sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself.
For many military veteran caregivers, their caregiving journey starts earlier in life and lasts longer. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Wherever your business takes you, Bloomberg Radio is here with you.
Breaking economic news crossing the Bloomberg.
Powered by 2,700 journalists and analysts.
So let's get to some of the day's gainers.
In more than 120 countries around the world.
We are seeing a flatter picture for European stocks this morning.
We're the only 24/7 global business radio platform.
This market regime is going to come with more volatility.
We need some supply to come in, yeah.
Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com.
These are sounds of a dinner. A dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America. 200 food banks strong.
The Bloomberg Talks podcast. Today's top interviews from around Bloomberg News.
We're joined by Scott Pelley. He is the CEO, of course, of United.
Kim Kardashian is expanding her empire. Wide-ranging conversations with Fortune 500 CEOs, big-name investors, and business leaders around the world.
The Right Honourable Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party.
Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak.
Bloomberg Talks. Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
The New Deal created American infrastructure that unleashed new opportunity. Today, we're doing it again with massive investment in modernizing our infrastructure to build for tomorrow. At Build America Mutual, we municipal bond investments that help make it happen. Building a vibrant future for our communities and your portfolio. Invest in the future of America with BAM Insured Bonds.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Bloomberg Surveillance, and we say good morning. Catherine Geifeld with me this morning. Bramo out, Farah out. We are in. And yes, someone emailed in from Washington. Secretary Yellen, yes, and her will go to Chili Bowl on our recommendation here to boost the Washington economy this morning. For those of you who don't know, the best shop. All of Georgetown's got nothing. You gotta go. It's like an emotion. It's like really cool. And they have it at the airport, but it's not the same. The airport sort of
Doesn't count.
The romance didn't translate over. What translated is we thought, Katie and I thought this would be a sleepwalk today. No, it's actually really, really interesting curve inversion, 108 basis points. Katie, you mentioned 4.93% at 3 basis points on the 2-year yield. You talked to Jim Bianco there, and you get this higher yield ferment there as we start the second half.
Yeah, and that curve inversion continuing today. You do have 2-year yields marching higher. 10-year yield.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to close.
We do have some movement in the oil market as well, and we have some
closing this off.
Right now, it's not only the equity conversation today, it's the equity pickup conversation of the second half. Anna Hahn at Wells Fargo brings prodigious math and physics with her to the study of what we got. I'm going to go derivative on her so I can save myself. I recommended Sheldon Natenberg's classic options textbook to someone the other day. All the Greek letters and all that. I look at gamma as the accelerated tendencies of any given index. In this case, let's take the Standard & Poor's 500. We came off the mat from a bear market October. Maybe it's a bull market. Can you identify without math and physics a second leg of a bull market?
Well, I'll put in a quick plug because I prefer the whole book of Natenberg, but I'll let you go on that one.
Yeah.
With the acceleration of the market, I think what's important is what's really dragging up the market and how much more
I'm going to take a short on oil.
rally here. Look to be losing steam at overbought levels, but you've seen that really the correlation within these 500 names because of that separation of these handful of names versus the rest of the market. And that's kind of what's bringing equity volatility lower. That might be what also has been people concerned with low breadth. So until we see that breadth expand, I don't think you see another this surge second half.
Do you reallocate or do you rebalance? You're not going to tell me I'm supposed to sell Apple or Nvidia, right?
Well, perhaps not sell, but maybe not be overweight those kind of areas. So with the tech market essentially being tied to growth and the way that yields might be going higher before they come back lower, we recommend being more neutral in the space and looking for other growth
Do
options.
you agree with that we could have an option where rates go higher and the price of the Bloomberg Total Return Index could actually go down to new weakness? Is that part of the mix of Mike Wilson's? I mean, Morgan Stanley's different because they got 47 opinions. But is the general statement there that you could have a higher yield regime at Morgan Stanley?
Yeah, I think look, there's a lot of parsing the economy versus the markets here, right? And the economy is not the markets, and so you can have higher interest rates trying to slow the economy, but there are other factors driving different parts of the markets. I mean, I think that's what is that what you're saying, Anna? That like because you've got just a handful of names, right, that are propping up the market, whereas the economy looks stronger, but there's this constant concern that okay, rates are going to go higher, but we're going to go into recession. And so I think you end up getting those differences.
There's definitely can be that deviation. You bring up a great point. There can be the economic health, it can be the economic recession, but what about the earnings recession? And I think those two can have absolutely different timings. And that's what we're a little bit worried about here. It's been in people's minds. We might see a recession that might be mild, and yet the consumer continues to spend next year that you've seen, but that spending is slowing. So how much does that deceleration or the gamma in that spending really start to bleed into equity corporate earnings? And that's what we as strategists are really trying to decipher.
Well, even still, it feels like some of the worst case scenarios for earnings have been lifted in the last couple of weeks, especially when it comes to profits. Is it premature?
I think it is a little premature. I think you see some companies and corporates doing quite well, but what's concerning is if you
See whether we can get down to this level. It's already come and tested this point here. As you can see, what we're looking for is a break, an actual tap of this liquidity zone down here. Again, we're not going to go too crazy today in terms of large moves or trades, but we'll see what we can get. It's going to be mainly done on the lower time frame. Again, volume isn't going to be crazy today or tomorrow. It's going to be relatively muted, so but we'll see. Unfortunately, this didn't play out. We kept that stop nice and tight anyway, so
given what's happened with the actual bounds and what's leading the market, it's not. I think that's part of what it is, that index correlation that brings it down. But on the other hand, who thought with this post-pandemic regime we would see a 13 handle again so soon, particularly with still the fear of recession. So I'd say that, I don't know if it feels right, I can't say I feel quite comfortable, but mechanically it seems to be the right value.
And now the part of the show, folks, where we go Nassim Taleb on Anna Hahn. We do this to punish her. The essay of the first 6 months rather was Larry McDonald wrote a brilliant essay, went out on Wall Street, it was viral and all that. and he starts with a massive lump of money in ETFs, index funds, the wall of 401k institutional money out there. And then he walks through on top of it X number of derivative strategies, almost like tranches of a buildup of notional value. Do you and the quants at Wells Fargo feel that we are going into a second half with notional derivative instability potentials, or is there integrity to the system?
Well, that's a great point when you bring up instability, because are people hedged right now? When vol is cheap, you would expect the hedges are cheap. But why buy this downside protection if we're only going one way upwards? Feels like you're tearing up money. So
Well, it feels like 1987, but continue.
and so in that kind of environment, it comes to maybe it is prudent to have some protection, but we're not calling for a major pullback here or a major downturn, but perhaps again that deceleration in this upward trend we've seen. So I think that if you want to put on those option strategies, maintain your upside exposure, but also take some off the top in terms of your stock positions and consider rotating that to less explored in parts of the market.
Is your study that rebalancing works? I mean, Harry Markowitz, a Nobel laureate, 95 years old, he's the one that gave us diversification and rebal. I'm not a big fan of rebal, sell your winners. Where are you on that?
Well, I think it depends on timing. And here, again, we're not saying get out of your winners completely, but take a little. You know, it's been 6 months and you've already gotten 33% on some of these names in the QQQ ETF and your passive. You know, you can't be too mad about that one, and it wouldn't be the worst thing to take some of that home or pocket it and put it into something of the
See,
less.
that she sounds like a trader.
Yeah.
Oh, she was a trader.
Yeah.
Let's take that home.
Take some profits, lock in some of those gains. I want to go back to that essay that Tom brought up. I think you were having a conversation with Amy Wu Silverman a week or two ago about covered call strategies. Some of the most popular ETFs out there on the market right now are covered call strategies. They sell call options. And when you think about the stability of markets and this drag lower in volatility, do those sorts of strategies have any volatility masking effects?
It is possible. And you think about if the average investor is selling calls, then the broker, on the other hand, has to buy those calls, and they need to delta hedge. So when they buy those calls, they need to sell the underlying to hedge those delta positions. So you have this kind of dynamic where some people are holding these calls on their own outright, and other people are holding them hedged.
What we do here, folks, is when any wise-ass derivative strategist mentions delta hedges, we always turn to the economist to translate. She's one of the derivatives in Greek letters on this. Would you save us with a question for Anna?
Okay, I'll say this. So, it's been really difficult with the incoming data being strong, especially when you think about jobs, for anyone to believe that there's any other direction but up for equities. And so, we're looking for another big print on Friday. And so, it's just very difficult for investors to get past that, right? So, is it that what it's going to take? Just a really clear slowdown in jobs, a really clear increase in jobless claims, something in order to get people to start to think that maybe there could be, more nefarious outcome for the economy in the back half of the year?
I certainly think that the employment picture is probably the linchpin that we're all looking for, and that's why we're so focused on every single jobs or wages related release. And so right now we expect the consensus, we're in line with about 3.6 on the unemployment rate. If that holds, I think the market has some of that priced in already, but unless we see, like you mentioned, something really concerning, a big uptick in unemployment or some big deterioration in the wage picture, for us it seems like somewhat sideways to steady going.
What's your estimate?
We're still at 44.20 in terms of for a soft landing. Now we've breached
So
through
we
that.
take the summer off, is that what that means?
Well, we are sell in May, go away. Maybe it's the sell in June, go away. But we wouldn't say quite go away. I do think that you could see some further upside, but the question is how much more. And towards the end of the year, as we start realizing that consumer spending continues to deteriorate and that starts to take hold and that earnings picture kicks in, I think you see a little pullback.
Anna, thank you so much. With Wells Fargo on an interesting Monday I'm absolutely fascinated, Katie, by the idea of Q1, Q2. Go back and look at what people actually wrote the second and third week of December.
The second and third week of December. Also, the second and third week of March, if you think about it. There was a lot of bearish bearish cases built on what we saw in March to haven't come through yet.
That's every economist's nightmare, is that people will go back and look at what we were writing
I've never
back
done that
when.
with you, Ellen. But very quickly here, Ellen, to me, it's just an extension of a pandemic. We underweight the medical disaster and the timeline off of that medical
Yeah, I
disaster.
think we did. I think we underestimated how long the tails of COVID
Right.
stimulus would last. I think we underestimated just how long the pent-up demand for services would last, especially among the wealthy. Like, there's still a lot of tails out there supporting the
Right.
economy, and we're just all wondering, does it just evolve into, okay, a nice slowdown as that fades, or do we fall off a cliff at some point?
Ellen Zentner, fall off a cliff. Where are you, Bramwell? Ellen Zentner with us with Morgan Stanley, and we'll continue. We're really going to dive into the American labor economy here with Ms. Zentner in our next section. And again, thank you so much with Wells Fargo today. The market's churning. It's a Monday. Market's closed at 10:20 a.m., whatever it is. S&P futures now down 0.1%. Now the latest news from New York City and around the world. Here's Michael Barr.
Tom, Katie, severe storms breaking flooding are affecting millions of Americans this holiday week. Triple-digit heat is blanketing parts of the South up through the Carolinas. In Pennsylvania, there were 3 reported tornadoes over the weekend. This man who owns a fruit stand in Lewisburg says he was caught up in one of them.
I grabbed my girlfriend and grabbed a hold of her to keep her from getting hit, and it came through and just left loose. Next thing I know, we're on the ground and the building's on top of us.
Heavy rain has drenched areas of Midwest, particularly in Chicago. A manhunt continues in Baltimore after a mass shooting. 2 people were killed and 28 more were wounded when gunfire broke out at a block party. Police say a few victims are in critical condition and more than a dozen under the age of 18. This man lives in the area where the party occurred.
First they was having a good time. After they got finished having a good time, somebody shot off a gun, shot at somebody, then somebody shot back, then everybody started shooting.
There is now an $8,000 reward being offered by police. A new ABC News poll reveals 53% now say they believe Supreme Court justices rule mainly on the basis of politics, not the law. Court last week struck down the use of affirmative action in college admissions. Republican presidential candidate Mike Pence was asked if there is racial inequality in higher education.
I think that time has passed. We'll continue to move forward as a colorblind society.
Former Attorney General Eric Holder says society is not colorblind.
To say that race is not a negative factor for too many people in this nation is inconsistent with just what the facts are.
Both appeared on CBS's Face the Nation, heard Sundays on Bloomberg. Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studios, this is Global News, 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts. When news breaks,
Hello and welcome to The Risk Opportunity, a series brought to you by Bloomberg Media Studios and Zurich Insurance Group. Countries around the world are committed to the Paris Agreement, which aims to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius or less. But our survival doesn't just depend on reducing emissions. In this episode, we'll hear from experts like Dr. David Lalmore, who's worked to develop models to better understand and reduce disaster risk. You can listen to and follow The Risk Opportunity wherever you get your podcasts now.
Across the globe, Bloomberg Radio is there. From Asia, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen plans a visit to Beijing to Europe.
The Russian president diffused the biggest threat to his grip on power in 2 decades.
Anywhere in the world, news happens. Joining us from Bangkok, Bloomberg Chief International Correspondent Haslanda Ahmed.
Bloomberg's Greg Sullivan begins our global team coverage from Budapest.
Let's go live to Istanbul. Our Bloomberg anchor Yusuf Bilal Al-Din.
Bloomberg Radio, on the ground, everywhere.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
Hey, you got this. Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
yeah.
Might have to start a band. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
This is Caroline Hyde.
And I'm Ed Ludlow. Join us for Bloomberg Technology, a daily podcast focusing exclusively on technology, innovation, and the future of business.
We bring you the latest headlines from tech top companies and conversations with the industry's biggest decision makers.
We will have to show our own productivity gains.
Privacy is a hugely important issue.
It's extraordinary what chip technology can achieve.
Bloomberg Technology Podcast every weekday.
Subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at Bloomberg.com.
Looking to fast forward your practice goals? Commonwealth Financial Network can help you evolve your business by providing entrepreneurial capital, affiliation flexibility, and tailored business strategies. Everything you need to put your practice in the fast lane. Welcome to a better path to success. Welcome to Commonwealth. To learn more, visit commonwealth.com. Commonwealth Financial Network. Member FINRA SIPC. A registered investment advisor.
It's a very, very low volume day. Getting a whole load of movement.
Tony Crescenzi of PIMCO. This is what we try to do, which is bring the zeitgeist to you, directly to you. He is the short-term bond expert with Jerome Schneider at PIMCO. And of course, Dan Isaacson.
Alright, I'm going to bring in the stop loss.
The FT this weekend, which made global headlines. And PIMCO a little bit cautious there on what we're going to see in terms
Let's go 71.4. If the sellers fail to break through, it's going to just rebound, so we may as well just bring it in.
Yeah, no, the guest lineup has been fantastic. I've been spoiled, from the guests. Had some great conversations.
Yeah, James from Australia emails in. Thank you so much for having Ellen. It's nice to see her working from office today. James, thanks for watching this morning. With us, Ellen Zentner of James Gorman's Morgan Stanley, with us right now. I saw a hockey stick chart on manufacturing in America.
And if this doesn't play out, I think we'll just end it for the day. This is very, very low volume. There isn't much going on.
Manufacturing labor to our population in America, and basically the backwards.
See whether we can start breaking some of this structure.
Can we have a manufacturing renaissance in America?
Well, we can have increasing share of manufacturing in the economy, but these things are slow-moving beasts, and the decline of manufacturing over time has taken decades to play out. We have larger step downs, as you said, in the 70s, and then as after the WTO and China's rise, right, more pronounced after that. And so I think we've got something exciting going on right now. I think we're digging into
Still do like the structure.
and we're seeing that, and especially if you go around the country and talk to small manufacturers in the country, which I have done, and they'll tell you that they're starting to get more and more domestic orders of people that are onshoring, and they're feeling the effect. They at least feel that their business is picking up. Now, this feels like it could be the start of something. We're seeing something. There is some onshoring story there. There's some nearshoring story there. I think the story around Mexico's benefit from nearshoring is exciting. There is a lot of infrastructure building going on across the country. State and local governments have been ramping up hiring around that as well. So I think there's something going on in manufacturing here that is exciting, but that's a smaller share of the economy than the services side.
And Katie, one of the unspokens here through June is Mexican peso stunning in its Mexican peso strength through 20, through 19, through 18. You're going to get a 16 handle on Mexican peso at some point, which is, I never thought I'd see that.
Yeah, and it's important to remember because we talk about how strong and resilient the dollar has been all the time, but there's definitely some pairs where that is not quite true. But Ellen, of course, we have you on Monday. We get the jobs report on Friday. Is there anything that we could get at 8:30 a.m. on Friday that would take the Fed off the course for a 25 basis hike later this month?
Yeah, so we've given this a lot of thought. So we have these roadmaps to each Fed decision that we produce of here's what we think the data will look like in hand, and this is what we think the response will be. And because it seems like, yes, they're data dependent, but it feels like they're sort of locked in for this July hike. I think the bar is just a lot lower than we thought it would be. You would have to, for the data to say don't hike, And so I think it would be a payroll print less than 100,000.
Right.
Because really, that would get the market thinking maybe they're not going to hike in July, and then still wait for that CPI print to do the rest of the job. Or if you got a downside surprise in CPI as well, then I think that would be the final, box to tick off that says, okay, it doesn't have to be a July hike.
Right.
I think it would still keep the Fed saying, hey, there's still maybe more to do. I think there's still going to be an asymmetric hiking bias, but I think it would have to be some pretty big downward misses for them to not hike in July.
Yeah, definitely. An important point that we do have a CPI before we do get to that July decision. But when you look at, and I don't want to get too short term here, but when you look at sort of the expectations that are baked in for the Fed to go ahead in July for, probably the labor strength that we've been seeing to continue with June's report, what do you think would prompt the bigger reaction in markets?
I think it would be a downside surprise because the market is the Fed's been really successful here. The market is saying, okay, they're on this hiking bias, and we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt that it could be 2 additional hikes from here, not just 1 additional hike or no hikes, or even pushing out the expectation they could be cutting before the end of the year. I think the market has really grabbed onto that narrative, and the data has helped support that. So I think it would be a downside surprise that would probably get the bigger reaction.
Are we partitioned where part of the American public has a 2% unemployment rate and another part of the public has a 7% unemployment rate?
Yeah.
How does Morgan Stanley see the quintile makeup or decile makeup?
Well, look, it's more around, sort of education level.
But the bottom decile's done well off the pandemic, right?
They have, from government support, which is now ended. They have off of a tight labor market, which has increased labor income and wage growth, especially for low wage paying service sectors. But we're only just now seeing real wage gains positive. So it was really, inflation was still outpacing wage gains for those folks. But that divergence between sort of those with a 7% unemployment rate and those with a 2%, it's really, you go all the way to like a 13% unemployment rate and those with a 2%. That has always been the case. It's always been the case. So what I look at is, has the unemployment rate been improving across all by ethnicity, by age, by geographic location? Like, has it been improving across all groups? Yes, it has. And we are back to the kind of tight labor market for the most underserved in the country, being just as good or as tight as it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I look at this, and Al, they said to me, can we get Zentner for Monday before 4th of July? And I said, well, she's probably going to be in waders in some trout stream in Chile as well. But, it's really a sacrifice on the part of Ellen Zentner, because she's going to take a nymph and a fly.
Got some nice supply coming back in.
Out in the river. This is the Zentner you don't know. Fly fishing with Zentner. Did you do the saltwater thing, the Seychelles and the Bahamas?
Not as big on saltwater fly fishing. I do like saltwater, but not to fly fish.
You go to Jackson
Can't
Hole.
cast far enough.
Yeah, you go to Jackson Hole, the Smith River, Salmon River, Jellystone River, and all of it. But Patagonia, we had listeners today emailing in from Chile with your appearance here today. And there's like the Rio Simpson, like Chile's like huge trout fishing. And the fish are ginormous, right?
They're ginormous, yeah.
Why are they so much bigger down there?
They don't get a lot of pressure. There's not a whole lot of people going down to Chile. It takes quite some time to get down there to fish. And do you know that the trout are not native to the region? They were introduced in
the brown trout was introduced in the 30s.
They were introduced in
right.
the 1930s by the British, yeah. And so we've got them to thank for that.
So they're invasive.
Not invasive.
Now listen to you.
They didn't
It's sport. It's not invasive.
some inflammatory commentary this morning.
It's like, we don't even miss Bramo. She's worse than Bramo.
No, there's not evidence that they have killed off the native populations of fish, but they have really thrived there, and it's been a great industry now in Chile.
What's your favorite river in the Rocky Mountains of this nation?
Oh gosh, in Montana probably. Well, there's one I can't say publicly because then everybody will go.
Oh, here we go. See, this is when you live large at Morgan Stanley.
cute.
Let's
You
say
have a
like
secret
let's say
river.
like the Beaverhead in Montana, because everybody knows that one, and it is a great river.
Oh,
but I
good
won't
point.
say the one that's my absolute favorite, because then it will get more pressure.
Could you get the makeup one next time with Sandra? Can we get a beeper in here so we can see that someday in Montana? Is the fishing good near Jackson Hole, Wyoming, the third or fourth week of August?
Well, it depends, right? The runoff was really big this year. A lot of those record snows,
Yeah.
right? The river levels are high, and it's not been high like that in quite some time. August has been really dry. But if you look at cutthroat fishing,
Very, very, very little volume.
James Gorman thinks she's cutthroat. She's going to be on the phone the first week of August. And Jim, I just really think I need to go to Jackson Hole to read academic papers. This has been a joy. Alan Zentner with us here on radio and television. Katie Greifeld, I'm going to tear up here. I'm going to miss you.
This was great.
Thank you. It was
for having
wonderful.
me. I had a lot of
I
fun.
wonder if I still have a job Wednesday. Good morning.
This Independence Day, Bloomberg and Morgan Stanley are proud to present
Come on, Oil.
with special appearances by En Vogue, Broadway's Mandy Gonzalez, and Locash. Watch and listen Tuesday, July 4th, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Bloomberg Television and right here on Bloomberg Radio.
He might not have a badge, but we have faith in his killer instinct. Celebrate the 10th anniversary of famed detective priest Father Brown. Stream a new season now, only on BritBox.
That sounds like a marvelous plan.
Yes, watch even more unofficial detectives in much-loved series, including Agatha Christie's Marple, Murder in Provence, and more. Expect intriguing mystery. Expect The Undetectives. Start streaming today at BritBox.com.
Sometimes it seems that
Very,
this is
very,
just
very.
coming for children. COVID, war, drought, and famine. They can seem downright relentless. You know what? So can our response. When helping children unites us, we are a force to be reckoned with. Where there is help, there is hope. It's why UNICEF won't stop. Ever. Learn more at unicefusa.org/we-won't-stop.
I'm Emily Chang, and on my new show, The Circuit, I speak with the big names in tech, culture, and innovation, and ask, what's next? You'll hear from leading tech CEOs and investors, alongside influencers and celebrity entrepreneurs. This is a chance to go deeper, to meet people in their world, and find out what drives them. Watch The Circuit, Thursday nights from Bloomberg Originals. You can catch it at 10 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg TV, and on the Bloomberg app and Bloomberg.com. And download the Circuit Companion podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
We gather together in communities across the
Alright, we're about 29 minutes away from the New York opening bell.
to celebrate and support.
Yeah, it's not.
Join us as we lift our lanterns high in order to move toward a world free of blood cancers. Join us as we light the night for a loved one. Join us. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Our mission is to cure leukemia, lymphoma, Hodgkin's disease, and myeloma. Our aim is to improve the quality of life of patients and their families. Join us. We are LLS, and when we walk, cancer runs. Join your community and help bring light to the darkness of cancer. Join us as we light the night. Find your local event at lightthenight.org. That's lightthenight.org.
Hey everybody, it's time for today's STEM tip. Want to know how to make your selfies even better? Okay, let's use science. The best time for photos is golden hour. That's the moment right before the sun sets, when the atmosphere scatters blue and violet wavelengths, making perfect, soft, and golden selfie lights to show off that beautiful face of yours. Click. Check out Chic and STEM for more inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Radio.
I think that the ownership of anti-doping policy restrictive well into
into the first half of next year.
The ECB is going to hike at least twice. Bank of England is going to hike at least twice. I really hope the Fed doesn't.
Our base case is still that the Fed probably only has one more interest rate hike in their pocket.
Powell have got to learn to stop tightening policy at some point. U.S. economy is really doing fine.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Paul Sweet on Bloomberg Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene. The market closing early today. Paul Sweeney doesn't know when. I don't know when. Pretty good on the watch. One of them closes at 1 p.m. One closes at 2 p.m.
Correct. The bond market at 1, at 2.
I don't understand it. In my youth, I don't recall this happening.
Come on, man.
Lots of people are at their third home, and the regular people are doing their work.
I know, we drew the short straw, apparently. Who made those rules?
It's an ancient tradition here. I mean, this is what you do, and particularly with the second half starting, lots to talk about today. Kriti Gupta and for Paul Sweeney. Sweeney, he's been at Newark Airport for the last day and a half. He's in the new Terminal A. There's no chairs. He's laying on the floor. He's got his Duke University pillow.
So much for that first class lounge, all those perks that he gets. Nope.
A disaster.
Doesn't apply this time.
The points guy was with us, Clint Henderson, Helene Becker with us from Cowan, and it's not funny. It's like, I can make a joke about Sweeney because he's living large, traveling first class, but your couple, or even worse, grandparents, you have 1 or 2 cherubs with you. What do you do?
Well, first off, define a cherub. Your definition of a cherub and my definition of a cherub.
3, 4 years old.
Okay.
The kids. You
A child.
Plane and go see grandma. Whatever.
Fair enough. Well, no, it's absolutely.
Alright, Sal's being brought in to break even. Just letting this one run for now. If we get stopped out, that'll be us done for the day.
Saying who's to blame? Where does the fault lie?
We'll do some planning ahead of tomorrow and the day after. Again, tomorrow's going to be low volume. Shouldn't be expecting anything massive to be happening until Wednesday, really.
Story, I guess. I mean, I thought like Jess Menton would be like poolside. She'd have a Lone Star. They don't drink. Beer in Texas is different. I mean, they do long necks.
Jess knows better, I'm sure. Because she went to do A&M, I think, and I went to UVA. I went out of state. I wasn't even
okay.
full, I think, Southern school.
What is the beer in College Station, Texas?
It's a lot of Coors Light. I'm gonna be honest. It's a lot of Coors Light.
Oh, you're killing me.
The beer glasses
The thing you
turns
guys
blue.
know, before you do the equity story here, the worst treatment of my youth was Coors 3-2 beer.
Oh, there you
Which
go.
is like, take a Coors Light, throw 8 ounces of water in it, you'll love it. Save us with a stock report this morning.
All right, I'm going to take a look at what's happening with shares of Tesla, ticker symbol TSLA. That's what's helping prop up the NASDAQ 100 futures. And we did get, obviously, we were hearing about this yesterday in the terminal after it did report those record quarterly sales on a surge in EV car demand. So the deliveries are the most ever in a quarter at more than 466,000.
Come on then, oil. Hit our target so we can get out.
Really impacted its operations in China, and you want to see what's happening with other EV makers also moving on that as well. If you're taking a look at Rivian, ticker symbol RIVN,
Down.
and then also Lucid, ticker symbol LCID, up about 2%.
Do they, Kriti, you're better on this than I am. They all make individual different cars?
Lucid and Tesla?
I've seen a Rivian on the street.
Yes, they make different cars.
Is there a Lucid? Is there like a Lucid car in the street? I'm serious, I don't know.
Well, they have their own cars as well, and I mean, this is something that I feel like whenever you hear Matt Miller is all over the sort of car space, and he gets very excited on this. But yes, they have their own cars, so you can have your own.
Is Matt working today?
That's a good question.
He is not working.
Is he not? Okay.
Do you
hear
well,
silence?
silence? That's what that is.
Continue, Jess.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at energy stocks with that correlation with what we're seeing in oil prices. So stocks are up pre-market. Crude prices racing that little bit of drop that we did see after the top exporters, including Saudi Arabia and Russia, extending that oil supply cuts. Looking at ConocoPhillips, ticker symbol COP, as well as Halliburton, ticker symbol HAL, up nearly 1% each. Also Exxon, Chevron, and Occidental Petroleum moved a little bit higher.
Jess Menton, thank you so much. David Malpass
Da,
emails in.
da.
Thank you, David, for listening this morning. Ex-Colorado College. It says, yes, Tom. Course 322.
Yeah, very, very, very close. Really at any level. Yeah, we should come down, hit that take profit, and then rebound a little bit. So hopefully we can hit it and get out. It'll be very nice.
Will Kennedy a true sack price.
Okay, and we're only going to play it to lower time frame structure. Here's your demand from here. So, I mean, it might be the case that we have to close out 0.64, just a little bit above. No, that 100 as well, just there.
Commodity coverage. Will, in the last couple of hours, voluntary cuts coming from Saudi Arabia and Russia. Why Russia?
So it's interesting that we got them from both countries. I think the additional cut from Saudi Arabia, the extension of the 1 million barrels a day that they instituted a month ago into August, was expected broadly by the market. But the Russian action today was a bit more of a surprise. One of the focuses for people tracking the oil market this year has been Russia's commitment to its existing obligations. It seems to have struggled to meet what it said it would do, and that's been
Alright, let's close out.
but now they're pledging to do a little bit more on the export.
We'll take it.
Tells you something very important, which is the oil alliance between Riyadh and Moscow, between Saudi Arabia and there's a real political message there in today's announcement that these two, the world's
Alright, we'll take the 60 pips.
will continue to work hand in hand and manage a global market. And I think that, for many people, makes a huge signal.
It's very clear that they are working hand in hand. Will, a crucial point, I think, at a time when
Get this
UAE
back
is
up.
also kind of chiming in. Talk to us about how much of it is a function of need as opposed to want?
Well, Russia needs oil revenues, and this has been one of the political battles in the oil market. The current regime under which Russian exports take place, this so-called price cap instituted by the G7 and pushed very hard by the US Treasury, is designed to keep Russia...
Yeah, crypto's going to be going through a boring time. It's very little volume. Okay, we'll take it. I don't think it's going to be too much else.
They're selling to new people in India and China, where Russian oil is now largely banned. But the fact that that oil has continued to flow has been important for keeping prices low. It's an important part of the inflation story. But it's also been important to Russia to keep its oil industry going at a very, very crucial time.
Well, Kennedy, I learned long ago by wonderful quality and unlosing experience that you can't really game the price of oil. But within the framework of everything we read at Bloomberg Hydrocarbons,
So you what, might be able to get, something here.
Many people have had to adjust their view of the oil market this year, as we've discussed before, Tom. People were very bullish. Many people were seeing a big rally up to $100 or more.
There's your rebound on oil.
And that hasn't come true for two reasons. One, because of this flow of oil from Russia, Iran, elsewhere. The global market remains pretty well supplied, but also because demand growth, while healthy, has not come in quite as strong as people expected, especially in China, as the industrial economy has struggled there. But there are still advocates for a strong rebound from here. People expect, looking at current supply-demand balances, for global inventories to start drawing quite hard. We saw some indications of that in the last 2 weeks in the US, and if that trend continues, if we do see that drawdown, if the economy remains healthy, I think some people predict that we could see a rapid snapback of some significance over the coming weeks and months.
Will Kennedy, let's mark that down. Will Kennedy with a buy rating on oil for $90 a barrel. Will Kennedy, thank you so much. I can't say enough.
Let's move in.
Just world-class.
Just going to go without us. Potentially get short down to here.
Team of people, including Mr. Kennedy, Justin Garrigan, and Stuart Wallace, and others. It's just first in class. Look for that across all of Bloomberg's different services. Ready, Greenhouse Read, NASDAQ up fractionally. With our news in New York City, here's Michael Barr.
Tom Trickey, thank you very much. Crowds have gathered at town halls across France to show solidarity with local governments targeted in 6 nights of unrest.
Alright, let's take a short here on New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. See whether we can get down to that level.
That many young people with immigrant roots say routinely discriminates against them. The Interior Ministry says almost 100 town halls were attacked in the violence, along with other public buildings. Another mass shooting over the holiday weekend, this time in Baltimore at a block party. 2 people died and 2 more were hurt. 24 more were hurt. Police are still searching for those responsible. Witnesses like this woman claim hearing 20 to 30 gunshots ring out, forcing hundreds to flee the area.
People gotta make a change. Something got to give. This is too much.
Police have offered an $8,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. President Vladimir Putin will participate this week in his first multilateral summit since an armed rebellion rattled Russia. His participation at a virtual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization tomorrow comes after a short-lived rebellion by Wagner mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin. Former Vice President and 2024 presidential hopeful Mike Pence traveling to Ukraine last week to meet with President Volodymyr Zelensky. Pence has publicly condemned Russia's unprovoked war on its much smaller neighbor.
I was literally on the streets of the city where more than 500 civilians were gunned down by the Russian military. I mean, the Russian military's conduct on an ongoing basis is not just it's not just about warfare, it's evil.
Pence appeared on ABC's This Week, which can be heard Sundays on Bloomberg. Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Radio Studios, this is Global News 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts over 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Tom Creedy.
It is that time of year. Creedy, I'm sorry, but we're going to digress on this with Michael Barr. Bloomberg Business Sports, which is send predictable fossils to the All-Star game and snub anybody under 24, Creedy, doesn't count in baseball. It's like they don't, for some reason they don't exist. Franco of the Tampa Bay.
Yeah. He's talking about and got snubbed? What, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I got a little excited.
I'm under strict orders to say one thing is my only contribution to this conversation, that Brandon Nimmo should have made it. That's all I know.
Yeah, but some guy that knows a lot more than me and probably more than Michael Barr, Bloomberg Business and Sports, said he came up with his list and only 24 of 45 or something like that people he expected. Michael, I think it's the worst All-Star of all the sports because they pretend they're picking the excitement, and they're not. There's no other way to put it.
Well, I'm sorry. I think part of this, it needs to go back to the writers. Totally the writers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, fans. This isn't a popularity contest. You need to pick the people that are the best to go to the game. Now you got me all excited.
I just think they urgently have to get this back. I watched Spencer steer the Reds all weekend, and maybe he's borderline all-star. I don't know. But there's young players lighting it up that have the numbers that should go. We'll leave it at that. That's your all-star snub talk. I love Padres Reds this weekend. Cincinnati Reds are really exciting. This is Bloomberg Sports. Good morning.
The possibility. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's 9:16 on Wall Street. I'm Karen Moscow. Oil is higher as Saudi Arabia and Russia extend oil supply cuts, while NASDAQ futures have paired their gains. Tesla's climbing after posting record quarterly sales. We check the markets all day long here on Bloomberg. NASDAQ futures, they're now little changed. S&P futures are down 1/10 of a percent or 4 points, and Dow futures down 1/4% or 83 points. And the DAX in Germany is down 0.2 of a percent. 10-year Treasury at 5.30 seconds, yield 3.81.
Alright, give me 2 seconds.
4.90%. NYMEX crude oil is up 0.5% or 36 cents at $71 a barrel. COMEX gold up 0.2 of a percent or $3.30 at $19.3280 an ounce. The euro 1.0911 against the dollar. British pound 1.2695. The yen 144.47. And Bitcoin is up about 0.2%, around $30,600. And just checking Tesla in the early trade, it is up about 5.5%. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tommy Creedy.
Karen, thank you so much. Karen Moscow, she's so large.
I think she also does the six. It must be, right? I don't know. I don't know how you get the shift. How did you get this shift?
My people talked to their people, and their people said, tell the prima donna that he has to work on July 3rd. And I said, I'll only work if it's interesting. And it's actually interesting today.
It actually is, which is surprising.
Yeah,
There's a lot to talk about.
For navel gazing at 60,000 feet. And one of the things to talk about in the bond market quickly here, I'm sorry, we're on a 5% watch, 2-year yield 4.90%. I'm not there on the 10-year yet, 3.81, but for what Jim Bianco said, I mean, there's this whole percolating higher yield
Well, the old colt's gone.
regime off the bombshell
Up.
essay of the week. Bloomberg, the Karen Moscow Business Flash, brought to you by Interactive Brokers. Interactive Brokers, their clients earn up to 4.58% on their uninvested, instantly available cash and balances. Rates subject to change. Visit com/interest rates to learn more. And then I'm sitting there getting ready for the show, midnight, 1 a.m., whatever. And there's Tesla news. I'm like, really? And that got me.
Yeah, Tesla news. We also got BYD news as well. This is, by the way, essentially the Chinese equivalent of Tesla, largest EV maker in the largest country known for their leadership in electrification. Both record sales, record deliveries.
Yeah, here China, it's like booming.
Massive. Massive.
Why don't you bring out our expert?
Yeah, we need a little bit more analysis because that's about as far as my knowledge goes. Alex Webb, our correspondent with Bloomberg Originals, talk to us a little bit about what this means. Is this a fluke here, given just how much pushback there was against Elon Musk's strategy to scale up?
Well, no, I mean, I think if you're going to discount your vehicles, I think you can probably expect there to be an uplift in the number of vehicles you sell, and needless to say that has happened. The challenge, of course, has been the effect on the margin profile at Tesla. And if you look at a year ago, Tesla was looking at 18% net margins. Now it's looking at closer to 12%. So you reap what you sow. Now it's been a success on that basis. That the stock is clearly valued for its growth still, which is one of the few stocks still out there doing that. You also have to remember that Tesla added 1 million cars worth of capacity at a very inopportune moment, at about just the time when demand was starting to slacken and we entered a tougher economic climate. So in order to justify that expansion, it has to be filling some of that capacity, and that's what it's done, or what it's doing, I should say.
So do you see some of Tesla's kind of competitors on the EV front, at least states that I'm thinking General Motors, Ford, let's even put Volkswagen in there. Do you think they're going to kind of rip a page out of Elon Musk's playbook now that they've seen what that might look like?
I mean, in a sense, it's easier for them to do so, particularly if you look at Volkswagen, which has a captive financial services arm, right? So it's easier for them to provide, general financing on those things. Nonetheless, they have a slightly different manufacturing challenge where they don't have the full sort of integrated manufacturing that Tesla has. Tesla owns a lot more of the components than does, for instance, historically a Volkswagen. Ford is in the middle of pivoting towards that and making themselves a lot more integrated, which they hope will reduce some of their costs and give them a better gross margin. So there are parts of it they can do, there are other parts they can't. And of course the final thing is they don't own their distribution network. The part of the game in cars has always been about getting stuff off the balance sheet, getting it into to the forecourts, and that's not something Tesla does because they're going into it all.
Alex, in the 4th of July, 4th of July is when the colonies won. We take it off like it's a 3 or 4 day auto celebration in America. There's the old phrase in Boston, come on down, and all that. Do people come on down to Tesla? How do people buy Teslas? Is it the traditional auto way?
Well, they think of themselves almost like Apple stores, right? They've got Tesla dealerships that are owned by Tesla. There has historically been a bit of a wait in order to get those cars. that has been less and less the case because Tesla's making more cars than people can buy, right? But that number in this most recent quarter has come down. I think it is possible to go down and buy them. I'm not sure you can buy it and it, you know, you drive a
Question totally unfair, but it's unfair Monday. In a year or 2 years, where is Tesla versus their competition?
Oof, God, that's a tough one. I mean, look, we've been forecasting for a long time the fact that loads of car makers are coming to market with their competitors. That is now happening. Tesla still, for now, seems to be doing fine. I think the challenge is, I'm going to hedge this a bit. If they are going to justify their valuation, get further than they are today, they need to have more models on the market. It's 3 years since they released a new model. They need to increase that rate of innovation if they're going to be able to sustain this dominant valuation position in the automotive.
So that's the Tesla story. Alex, while we have you, I want to talk about the Apple story as well, because two big heavyweights, two completely different narratives. The FT reporting that the virtual reality set that they were really touting as kind of the next big thing is dealing with production issues. How big of a deal is this for Apple that's slapping on a $3,500 price tag on that product?
I mean, let's not overplay it. For now, it's not a big deal at all, right? They're not planning to sell many of these in the short term. Any kind of hit to revenue is probably in the order of, 500 million, a billion, which, yeah, maybe for any normal person, that's a lot of money. But when you're looking at 400 billion revenue for the year, it's a rounding error. The thing that they are trying to do is get these headsets out to the early adopters, which means then you will have, I hope, when the big mass market product comes out, which will be sometime further down the line, according to the reporting of not least our colleague Mark Gurman, that there will be a strong lineup of product and services that run on the Vision Pro successor, and that will drive mass market adoption.
Alex Webb, thank you so much. Alex Webb there with Bloomberg Originals on Tesla, among others, and yes, Apple as well. Publishing moments ago, just a single title on a Monday. It's a podcast, but it's from Morgan Stanley. Thank you, Ellen Zettner. Just terrific. She came by to an entire trout fishing.
Wow. Did she bring the fish to set?
No, she didn't bring the fish, but she's going out. She came here with us. Equities Unplugged, Michael Wilson, Andrew Parker at Morgan Stanley. What the changing rate and liquidity backdrops mean for equities. Ellen Zettner, like 4 days ago, calls now for a July rate rise. And with that, Jim
Appreciate the likes, guys. Thank you. Again, as mentioned in the group, there's not going to be a crazy amount of opportunities in the market, unfortunately, just because of the very little volume coming from the US. So I'm going to just ease into the week as well as the month, and then hopefully things start to really pick up between Wednesday and Friday, and we can capitalize on some nicer moves. But yeah, I mean, you can just scroll through the markets. They're all very, very dead, very shallow movement, rebounds. There isn't anything crazy going on. Oil's made a little bit of a move. Gold's made a decent move. But yeah, I shouldn't really be expecting anything massive. It's going to be relatively shallow on either end. Crypto's just dead. Again, very much relies on the US volume. It might be the case that China brings in some movement later on tonight to the crypto space. So if you are awake over that time, fantastic. You might be able to capitalize something at that time. This doesn't look too bad. Send some nice structure. See whether we can continue. So we got
member FDIC.
Do,
Bridge
do,
Bank. Be
do,
bold,
do,
venture wisely.
So obviously we got this test up here, right? It's kind of why we took the trade. So we still got declining structure, came in, tapped, and then what we got is, well, what we're getting is hopefully the same. So here's your supply, and hopefully we can stick to it, see some supply coming in. We're getting a little bit. Ooh. So hopefully we can continue back down. It's had a pretty good run to the upside. Seen a little bit of a slowdown at the top here. So by the looks of it, it's running out of liquidity and demand. So this is your next area. It's not been tapped. We got the tap here. Here's your tap. So let's see whether we can get something down here.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community. At lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Meet Sam. Sam is 30 years old. Sam may not act the part, but he's a billionaire. But on December 12th, 2022, everything changes for Sam. And what he calls a screw-up, the U.S. government calls one of the largest frauds in history. From Bloomberg and Wondery comes a new series, Spellcaster, The Fall of Sam Bankman-Fried. Follow Spellcaster, The Fall of Sam Bankman-Fried on Amazon Music or wherever you get it.
At PPAC Pride, and that path, from dream to reality, takes planning, hard work, and determination. Our wealth managers understand our commitment to client success. We're dedicated to providing the guidance that helps them achieve it, generation after generation. While others dream, PPAC clients achieve. For advice in planning, investment management, and trust and fiduciary solutions, visit ppacprivate.com. Not FDIC insured, no bank guarantee, may lose value.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adopted mom. She said
Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up.
Nice, 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 nice.
Hold my hand. Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Live from the Interactive Broker Studio, broadcasting coast to coast. Bloomberg 1130 New York, Bloomberg 99.1 Washington, Bloomberg 106.1 Boston, Bloomberg 960 San Francisco, Sirius XM 119, the Bloomberg Business app, and Bloomberg.com. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
There's your opening bell.
It's the sound of the opening bell on Wall Street. I'm Karen Moscow along with Tom Keene and Kriti Gupta. I'm looking at the S&P 500.
Okay, in about 30 minutes we get ISM. And then I think that'll be it for the rest of the day in terms of data. So we'll see whether we can get some movement between now and then. If not, we'll just close out for the day and come back tomorrow morning.
10 points at 13,799. 10-year Treasury up 630 seconds, yield 3.81%. The yield on the 2-year 4.90%. NYMEX crude oil is up 0.3% at 21 cents at $70.86 a barrel. COMEX gold up 0.1% or $2 at 19.3140 an ounce. The euro 1.0914 against the dollar. The yen 144.45. Tommy Kriti.
Thanks so much, Karen. Greatly appreciate it. The success of my morning, folks, besides explaining to Will Kennedy in London and to Curran, rather, in Washington, just in from Hong Kong, he's having his first hot dog this weekend. And I just said mustard. You know, it's like Mike's Mustard out in New Jersey.
You're not a ketchup guy?
No, you don't put ketchup on a hot dog.
What?
Like Mike's Mustard. I mean, what is this? Like, Afterthought does this. When did you start putting ketchup? What are you, from Texas? You put ketchup
I
on
am
a hot
the
dog?
worst Texan ever because I'm actually vegetarian. But the one time
Hot dogs are vegetarian. They're vegan.
So Sometimes they can be. I don't know. I thought ketchup and mustard was like the norm.
No, you put mustard.
Just mustard by itself.
Sauerkraut. Sarah Hunt at Alpine Saxon, she puts sauerkraut.
Are you
Gold.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, there isn't much happening, bro. Let's have a little look. Yeah, it's coming up to resistance. It's going to be very low volume for the next 2 days, so maybe there's a little bit more push. We are at supply. Might be the case that we push into here.
Trading at about 30,629 right now. Last week with all the volatility between the SEC and BlackRock ETF.
Yeah, it might be the case that we just range. There isn't crazy structure to be playing off anyway, but here's your top. Might be able to stop and then come back up and then push down. But maybe we just move within this wider range for a period of time.
It feels like it because it feels like the people who
Again, I've got to wait for a little bit more price action. Ooh, it's pushing up.
made those incremental gains, but again, we're not there yet.
Your Bitcoin report there and have hot dollars.
The closing.
4th of July weekend. We stagger now, and I'm really happy that this coming over the transit.
Bear with me, okay.
Managing director for
I need to.
advisors, and he has been steadfast,
Okay.
not so much in the valueness of
All right, close out.
the idea that the fixation of Tom Keene, Apple, Microsoft, and more Apple.
That'll be it for trades. Let me go through a final update with you all just before I go off. But yeah, there's just the movement just isn't ideal today. Okay. Let's have a little look. So in terms of gold, you have this whole area here, which has got a nice concentration of supply. So I mean, anywhere along here, you can be looking at some sort of supply dump and turnaround. Again, Wednesday, the US comes back online. Obviously, we got non-farm payrolls coming out on Friday. We get ADP come out on Wednesday, sorry. So the real strong data starts to come out between Wednesday and Thursday, really. So that's where the greater movement is going to be held this week. Currently, you have that trend. Okay, failed to actually break down lower here. Hence why we got to break a structure just here. So again, look for a test of this area, maybe pull back to somewhere where along these previous levels before potentially continuing back up. So it's quite a nice bit of volume coming in here from buyers. Again here, very little. Again, as I mean, it's expected you're going to see it across the board anyway. But yeah, this is essentially where you're looking at potential breaking at 1938-ish roughly. If you can get up and above that level, then you might start to see a little bit of a change of character there. But I mean, even just going high time frame. Does look like a decent rebound. They come close to this low here. Was looking at it coming testing that low a bit nicer. This isn't too bad of a level, about 1950 as well. Yeah, I do like that. This level here. Could be the case again as mentioned, so maybe we just continue building something along here, come back down, and then make a move up. This is a nice level to target just here. There's untapped liquidity at that area, so that's probably where I'd target really. But yeah, it's, you just gotta let it play out a little bit more. You're starting to see a little bit of supply coming in here as we edge closer to these points. So a nice supply dump here. Again, held. So it's building in slight positive structure now. It looks like a little bit of a channel as well. But yeah, there you go. Yeah. WTI again played out nicely today. The nicer move. It's at liquidity, so again, tapping for that demand. Maybe we go in a little bit deeper. You got that 200 there, 70.2, and rebound. You got a little bit of a top here, as you can see. You got a double top, and then that third test, and then a change of character and push right back down. It was a nice setup. But yeah, we'll see. There isn't going to be crazy movement, so yeah, we'll just go with the flow, go with some structure. Can you please explain liquidity? Liquidity is essentially just supply and demand, mate. So if you, the kind of main component that will help you to do so is knowing kind of where your order blocks are being set, right? So for instance, you got a top here. Again, you have to do your top down method and put in your high time frame supply and demand zones, and then kind of go down in time frames and look at the structure within that structure, or the overall trend. So for instance here, you can see it all throughout, where you got this area here, right? Essentially where your supply and demand zones are, where you price ranges, okay? So consolidates or like holds to a certain point several times. So for instance here, you can see a clear range on the lower time frame. That would be technically, I mean, you can classify as 15-minute supply. So supply will be on the top end, supply demand will be on the bottom end. And as you can see here, we got that breaker structure, that change. Okay, so here we go, right here, if it works. Yeah, is it working? Okay. I don't know why it's not working. Is it being slow?
Reds are great. Great American Stadium's packed. We got 47 guys. I don't know anybody's name except for they just play. They're like fun.
When are we taking a surveillance field trip to
Bear with me. Don't know what's happening. Something's playing up. Okay. Okay, so even here, 15-minute, you can see it quite nicely. You see how you got, go through the top.
What? It's part of the song.
See here, and we got that test right there. So it came down, you set your supply area just here, came down here, rebounded, retapped for liquidity, double top, straight back down. And those are the kind of areas that you're looking to enter at, right? You're waiting for that price action to play out, and then taking it. So you can even see it all the way here. Came, tap, it held, started to build a new level. Look at what happened once we got that supply coming in. Okay, broke through, retapped, liquidity, back down. And you just continue with it, right? So even here, See, you got it here. You got that retap here. I mean, we got closed out, but. And then you can do it on the bottom end as well. So in terms of your targets, you're just looking for the same thing, right? So down here, you got your demand. So see how you got that nice tap. You're currently getting that tap right now as well under 1 minute. Yeah. See here how you got this area here. That's your demand zones. And those are your areas that you're looking to break, right? If we start breaking, start looking at that structure. So for instance here, you got that nice structure and continuation. If we do manage to break, so if we break through this area here, okay, we come down. When prices start to rebound, what you're looking at is for prices to come test these areas here. So for instance here will be an area for supply, right? So you're looking at these areas to hold. Now obviously you got to bear in mind that if you're using the lower time frames, they're not going to hold structure all the time or as well. So realistically you want to be looking at that at least on the 4 hour. The 4 hours where you're going to be doing your majority of your plan infrastructure. So let's say all the way here, right? So you see how I've got this mapped out here. That's a 4 hour demand area. So if prices come down here, that's where you're looking at it rebounding, right? And then you've got this strong area here, all of that there. But even here before, so this area here, you see how prices, they consolidated at the bottom, they broke out. See how it comes back down and retaps that area for liquidity, and then you get that push up. And that's on the 4 hour. So once you analyze these areas on the 4 hour, you just continue going down the 1 hour, and then you can see that price action playing out even nicer. You see here. See how it plays out to that 1 hour. Came in, tap, pushed up. So we haven't had price come back and revisit this area here. So this has been untapped liquidity. So if prices do start breaking down and building structure to the downside, so for instance here we've got positive structure, right? So if we break through this area here and push back down, that's where you're looking at prices coming back down to and tapping for demand. But yeah, hopefully that clarifies a little bit for you. If you're very new to it, just look at supply and demand zones, okay, which is essentially support, resistance and support, and look at order blocks. Order blocks are really good as well. But yeah, apart from that, guys, thank you very much. I'm not going to be taking any more trades for the day. It's just very, very little liquidity, very little movement. Yeah, we capitalized on a nice trade. So yeah, that's it from today. We'll send out some updates later on tonight, and just get something in the pipe. Well, see whether we can get anything in the pipeline for tomorrow. But yeah, I'll see you later on. If not, I'll see you in the morning for London opening trading session. See what we can get. But yeah, again, guys, the market's going to be closed out early today, so bear that in mind if you don't want to hold and pay for that crossover fee. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. It's going to be a slow start to the month until Wednesday. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, and I shall see you later. Cheers.